Okay, here's my question. Why is the Arcane finale's big epic fight scene between a main character and a henchwoman? Hench people are supposed to be cannon fodder. Fights with them don't matter that much. This is the final episode of an extremely action-oriented series. There's a fight scene in every episode, most of them climaxes of their episode. Over half the cast is fighters. The question of fight or don't fight is central to the story, and the show actually teases a very different climax fight the whole story is building up to, one that would definitely feel like a real climax. And I'm obviously talking about this from the intro. Where's that scene? Why do we get Vi versus basically a secondary villain instead? Okay, now granted, this fight scene is not positioned to be the climax of the finale episode. It doesn't come at the end, it comes in the middle. And also, granted, the actual climax is absolutely satisfying storytelling, brilliant storytelling. But what is this scene doing for the story? What is it doing for Vi's arc? Why is it important enough to be in the finale, especially since this fight sort of already happened and it wasn't that important? Do we really need a part 2? And let me tell you how I know I'm missing something here. It's this. There must be a lot going on in this scene if that's how Vi feels afterwards. So whatever's underlying this whole thing, it has to explain this response too. Okay, now one of the reasons why this is so puzzling is that Sevika herself is so puzzling. Very difficult character for me to understand on my first watch, but even more so on my second. And what ended up helping me understand her and this climax was not a theory, but 3 separate theories, or really 3 separate frameworks. There's 3 lenses we can use to contextualize Sevika within Arcane's larger story, its themes, its cast. But for a starting point, let's just look at Sevika's decisions throughout the show. Okay, now we only got 6. Everything else that happens with Sevika happens to her. We have 6 decisions. She betrays Vander to join Silco. She saves Silco at the cost of her own arm. She tries to kill Vi. She tells Jinx about Vi. She tells Silco not to go after Jinx. And she chooses not to betray Silco to the Cambarans. Now this is a truly odd set of character decisions, and let me point out some context here and you'll see why. Let's start at the end. She decides not to betray Silco to the Cambarans. Was I the only one shocked by the scene? Anyone else think this would be kind of a big scene for both Sevika and Silco? Not necessarily that she'd kill him, but this felt like a pivotal moment for something. I thought something would change here. But what does Sevika do? She makes a decision, and it's still pretty epic the way it happens, but it's a decision to keep things how they are. With like an admonition to Silco, you're also changing and for the worse, get it together. But Sevika stays loyal because that's who she is. Scene ends, and we're kind of back where we started before this whole Cambaran stuff. And the weird thing about this, the weird thing about decision number 6 is decision number 1. Where was this loyalty with Vander? She had no problem jumping ship with him. And this is actually an objection a lot of people raise whenever I call Sevika the ultimate loyalist. But she betrayed Vander. No, careful, Vander betrayed her. Vander actually betrayed all of the Undercity from the perspective of most of these Undercity characters, and even from the perspective of Vi, who's on this side for a while. Vander promised war and then refused to deliver, and even worse, he worked with Piltover behind everyone's backs. So yeah, Sevika is definitely going to defect from him to keep Zaun on the course of war like it should be. And now we're seeing a pattern. When does Sevika choose to expend her agency as a character? Zaun is on the course for war. She uses her agency to maintain that status quo. Silco is the leader of the Undercity. She uses her agency to maintain that status quo. One of these other decisions on our list should be immediately falling into place for you. Right after she sides with Silco, what happens? Powder's monkey bomb goes off, again threatening that status quo. Silco dies, then Zaun is no longer on the path to war. So Sevika swoops in, saves the day, and again prevents things from changing course. So that's 3 out of our 6 decisions, Sevika preventing things from changing. Let's look at the final 3, and these are a bit different, but they follow the same theme pretty closely. So Jinx comes to Sevika wanting answers. She's ready for a fight. She's ready to torture Sevika to get the secret out of her. And again, I also thought Sevika would put up a fight because Sevika is a tough lady and that's what I expect from her. But no, I was wrong. Sevika just tells her. Why? Because Jinx is already going crazy because of Vi. Silco wants to stop that, but not Sevika. Sevika wants Jinx to stay on that course. And telling her about Vi is pushing her further down that same road towards implosion. So once again, Sevika expends agency to keep things going the way they're going, to prevent the natural course of events from changing. With Vi, this one isn't exactly Sevika expending agency. Vi is the one who instigates here, so of course Sevika will try to kill her back, but still, same general theme. Vi is supposed to be dead. She resurfaces. Sevika uses her agency to make sure things stay how they were. Kill Vi, and she stays dead. And here she fails. She doesn't kill Vi, but that still is what she's trying to do. Keep things how they already were. And her final decision, telling Silco not to go after Jinx. There's different ways of interpreting this, but once again, same theme. She's basically telling Silco to do nothing. Don't let this change what your plans are. Just keep going, keep acting as if this didn't happen. Just keep doing what you're doing. So every single decision Sevika makes, she's using her agency as a character to prevent interference in the plot, to stop things from changing. It really turns the core of character rules on its head. And it's not breaking the rules, it's just turning them upside down, because conflict is always held up as the most important thing in storytelling. A character wants something and there's conflict, there's an impediment, a challenge, a barrier, and that's what's exciting in stories. We see powerful emotions clashing against forces of the world that would stop them from achieving fruition. That's the drama. There's no drama in everything just working out. There's no story in a static set of events. If nothing changes, then why am I watching? But what if your whole story works in the opposite way? What if instead of characters wanting something to happen, the audience following suit and wanting it too, the characters want something not to happen? Really, really powerfully and desperately want something not to happen. And the audience follows suit there and is also desperate for that thing not to happen, for war not to happen, for separation not to continue, for trauma not to worsen. Then what's exciting, what's dramatic is everything going absolutely smoothly. What's dramatic is nothing changing. And I'm talking about this like it's rare to see. It's not that rare. This is how horror movies work. It's how disaster movies work. It's how a lot of good specific conflicts work within all kinds of stories. Problems just becoming worse on their own, no one being able to stop it. But I've never seen this function relegated to a character in this way. Sevika is there to make sure everything we don't want to happen just keeps happening. And this is what I mean by the term anti-arc. Characters typically effect change in themselves and or in the events around them throughout the course of a story. Sevika's resolute refusal to let any change happen, this like power stance she strikes in a world where everything wants to change, where we want everything to change, is really interesting from a storytelling perspective. It's not an arc, it's flat, and that works because of how the story is crafted around her. So that's framework number one. Sevika's arc is an anti-arc. She's Arcane's impediment to change, big mommy roadblock energy, to put it in Zoomer terminology. Framework number two I've mentioned on occasion in my other videos. Just glance at Sevika and Vi and the parallels just jump out at you. Physically, these are the strongest characters in the entire show, and that physicality defines their whole approach to life. They're both fighters, they're both really direct, no nonsense. These are both characters who are absolutely loyal, but in completely different ways. And that loyalty, interestingly enough, forces them to change allegiances as circumstances external to them change. And since they're both also Undercity to their core, these alliance switches put them at odds with the Undercity. These decisions feel disloyal, but that's not the way Vi and Sevika see it. They both believe they're acting in the best interests of their home and their people in the long term. And their loyalty also puts them at odds with this character, and especially with this character's relationship with her. In the Echo video, I talked about how there's standard foils and chronological foils, or AU versions of the same character, with Echo being what Powder could have been if she had stayed away that night like Echo did. With Vi and Sevika, it's both. In Act 1, Vi was actually on Sevika's side about going to war. Then she had her talk with Vander and decided to change course. But she could have just as easily made the decision to defect to Silco, and if she would have been just as loyal to Sevika because that's who Vi is. What stopped her from betraying Vander? Well, for Sevika, Vander was an ally, a boss, a leader. But for Vi, Vander was family. What prevented Vi from going to Silco, from aligning herself with a monster, wasn't ideology, it was family, it was human connection. In Act 2, Vi is kinda over the whole Piltover-Zahn conflict, except as far as it impacts her life. She wants to save her sister, she wants revenge on Silco, she allies with Piltover against Silco only because she thinks taking down Silco will free Powder from his brainwashing. Again, ideology is not motivating this good decision she makes, it's the human connection, and this scene really expresses this phenomenon with Vi perfectly.
What were you doing with Jinx?
Her name is Powder, and I just found her when you and your goons showed up. It's me, Vi. Same person who used to take you down to the junk heap and hose you down when you got covered in grease.
That's what Vi cares about. Even when we see Vi actually expressing her political opinion, which aligns practically with Silco, listen to the way she says it.
I want Powder to have more than that, and I'm willing to fight for it.
It's not about like the masses, the faceless people of the Undercity. It's about her people, her family. It's deeply personal. And that's why we do see a flexibility with Vi we don't see with Sevika, because that often is how ideology works. It comes in these inflexible packages that resist empathy. Ideas, cold and uncaring, self-image propped up by social pressure, willful ignorance, intellectual dishonesty. But when you're like Vi and the only connection you have to your ideology is itself an expression of your selflessness, then you can change because you're not the important one here. And once the ego is involved, you can see more easily if you're the one who needs to make a sacrifice and give yourself up. You know, there's no big domineering idea standing in the way of seeing that you can trust someone you were afraid to trust. So this human connection element really transforms Vi's whole trajectory. Okay, now look at Sevika, and this segues perfectly into Sevika Framework 3. So allow me to contradict something I said earlier. Is Sevika really that loyal? And loyal to what exactly? I made it out like Sevika was loyal to a cause. She's all in on independent Zahn. She sided with Silco for that reason. Prior to that, she both sided with and betrayed Vander for that reason. Except that's not what she says, or at least not what she emphasizes. Listen.
You look weak.
And listen to this too. What does this mean?
Filthy traitor.
Vander had his chance.
And why doesn't she betray Silco?
Were you tempted?
Not for a worm like him.
I think this does a good job demonstrating that she's not actually loyal to people. She's loyal to strength, as manifested by the willingness to fight. And to fight who? Piltover. But it's the willingness to fight that gains her loyalty, which Vander just doesn't have anymore, as opposed to Silco, who has it but just needs a wake-up call. And this idea of Sevika being loyal to strength per se is a gigantic difference in how we see the character. And it also solves this other really puzzling scene for me. Listen to what she says to Jinx here.
It's your sister. She's back. It's not what you think. She's with some girl enforcer. Guess she replaced you.
So when I saw this, I assumed she was just messing with Jinx's head, which she is doing, and it totally works. This is literally the idea Jinx's mental illness latches onto, both with her paranoia and her hallucinations for the entire rest of the show. So much for sneezing it off, huh? But this still stuck out to me, because Sevika doesn't seem like the most devious scheming type. So where does she just suddenly pull this replacement thing from? And this is reminiscent of exactly what we just talked about. Vander had his chance, he's replaceable. Silco better watch out or she'll replace him too once she finds someone worthy. Sevika views people as replaceable. That's what all these scenes are telling us. So what's up with that? So I think we can find the answer in another oddity with this character, Sevika's lack of ego. Usually street toughs have this bravado to them, this chip on their shoulder, especially when it comes to the right-hand man, right-hand lady types. They're second in command to the most powerful person, and they want you to know it. And often, not always, this goes even further, and we get the Starscream archetype, the second in command who very clearly wants to be the big boss. And there's this tense relationship with the henchman just barely on the leash, and he's this chaotic force that's on the verge of becoming a third player in the fight. Sevika isn't that. No backstab, she'll tell you to your face if she wants to betray you, and she's not insecure about her station. She understands that she's muscle and that's it. She even lets Silco order her around to do dirty work.
Help her with the body.
And the Chem Baron is even taken off guard by this lack of ego, because he absolutely expects to do the normal tempt the henchman with egotistical stuff routine, and it just totally misses. So connect this lack of ego with the replaceable thing, and what do we get? We get inferiority. The more I think about it, this quote is the pivotal definition when it comes to all Undercity characters.
I grew up knowing I'm less than them. That my place is down there.
I think every Undercity character explores a different manifestation of this deep-seated inferiority. Whether it's assuming the world will always abandon you, or assuming that you need to embrace darkness and chaos because that's all you'll ever have, or trying to replace yourself with something better or stronger, or like Sevika, just seeing people on the whole as replaceable. In a society where you're seen as worthless anyway and most a manual labor robot, it's natural to see people this way, unfortunately. Sevika very subtly lives by and embodies this type of dehumanization. The dehumanization of being in a movement, being a cog in the machine. And at the same time, Vi very subtly embodies the opposite, the humanity of family. When you really love people in your life, nothing can replace them. And people in these mass movements, they look at people who give up the cause because of love of family and see them as weak.
Just protecting your kids.
And then in turn, the people who have family bonds, these human connections so strong nothing can break them, they wonder how human cogs and faceless movements even see life as worth living when their lives are devoid of love. And that's Arcane. Are they faceless masses or real people? Faceless future or people in your life now? Faceless representations of this or that archetype, or a person I can look to and trust and touch? The kind of loyalty and mutual protectiveness Vander was trying to foster in his Undercity was modeled on that family model. No one gives anyone up, no one gets left behind, we make sacrifices to keep each other safe. Sevika's loyalty, the loyalty of an ideology, a mass movement, leaves people behind and lets some suffer at the expense of the cause. And on a personal level, that can be great and dignified if it's you doing your noble duty voluntarily, but most people who sacrifice for your cause, they didn't get asked if they were willing to suffer. The important people made that decision for them. So Sevika embodies that cold dehumanization of a mass movement. Vi embodies the passionate humanization of family. Or put another way, Sevika embodies the cold dehumanization Piltover impresses upon the Undercity, and Vi embodies a desperate and tragic attempt to escape that. So we have our three frameworks, the anti-arc, the anti-Vi, and human replaceability. What does all this combine into? So Vi, as always, is our Rip Van Winkle. She's a character who wakes up after 6 to 7 years to an unfamiliar world, to a world that's completely changed around her, and she wanted that world to stay the same. She sees where she lived, gutted, and transformed into something unfamiliar and hostile. She sees her city and the suffering inflicted by its new overlord. She sees her sister, and she couldn't stop any of these changes. And her nemesis, the anti-Vi, is the successful version of what Vi wanted to be. A character who is absolutely successful when it comes to stopping change. This is a character who prevented Vander from changing the course of the Undercity. This is a character who can protect the people she cares about instead of hurting them and sending them spiraling into darkness and madness. And it's the character who refuses to let anyone change the way the Undercity is now. Not people with power, not even the man who's literally in control of it all, and especially not people who are supposed to be dead. That's what's standing in Vi's way. That's who Vi has to conquer and overcome. And with a character like Vi, who in so many ways lets her strength define her at her core, the inability to change things is that terrifying sign that underneath all the muscle, she's actually pathetically weak. weak, ineffective, inferior. And so this fight is not just about change externally. Vi is also fighting against this person who lives her life by a code of inferiority, who has given into the tyrannical dehumanization of the cause that views humanity as replaceable cogs to be left behind if necessary. This paradigm that's taken over the Undercity and sapped all the humanity Vander had fostered there. This is a fight for the very idea that relationships like Vi and Powder's matter at all. So Sevika is standing in Vi's way as all of this, as the supreme roadblock, the symbol of Vi's weakness, the symbol of her worthlessness, the symbol of inferiority in general. Vi spends all of Act 2 and Act 3 trying to fight all of this, trying to change things, trying to rekindle those human connections. And in episode 9, she finally removes that roadblock. And now what? Well, now that roadblock is gone, but Vi hasn't even begun to walk the actual road. All this work and still nothing has changed. Still weak, still inferior. That's what the soul scream is at the end. And that's the finale too. We see that nothing has changed and that Vi, despite all of her strength, is too weak to change the course of anything. All of this is wrapped up in the conflict between these two, and that's why it does deserve to have its epic resolution in the finale. It's a big moment for the show's themes, it's a big moment for one of our protagonists, and it's a big moment for one of our side characters too. For Sevika, Vi is challenging her at her core too. All of her beliefs about change in humanity too are being challenged by Vi. So that's what I think is behind this fight scene. That's why I think it's here in the finale. Now, all that said, I'm willing to bet money that they tried to write the Tea Party scene into a fight between Jinx and Vi and have that be the action-packed climax of the whole show, and they couldn't get it to work. So they scrapped it and came up with the ending we got instead, which I totally 100% applaud them for, because that ending is brilliant and should not have been a fight scene. It wouldn't have made sense. But then once that happened, they did need something actiony to carry us to the end of Vi's arc, and that led to what we got here, which I can't deny is underwhelming in a lot of important ways. There's no stakes. We kind of know Vi is going to win. We're anxious to see the more important parts of the story. It's not totally clear why this is happening now. It's not a bad scene. It's also very visually impressive, obviously. We see a lot of character expressed in the way they fight, and like I spent this whole video discussing, it has a lot of utility, especially on a thematic and symbolic level. And a lot of that is Sevika bringing way more to the table than it seems at first glance. But unfortunately, not a lot of people care about Sevika on first watch, me included. So as far as a fix, maybe they could have put Silco in here somewhere. Vi needs to take Sevika out to get to him, symbolically, thematically very similar. And now there's stakes, now there's uncertainty, drama, importance. But I get why they didn't do that too. They sacrificed that option to have this brilliant Silco scene here with a statue and Jinx listening in. I get it. It is a hard problem to solve, and they did all right. And you know, big storytelling lesson, no matter how many people were unsatisfied by the scene, not a single one of these people was thinking about it by the end of the episode. The scene served its purpose, and then the actual climax was so incredible that everyone forgot any problems they had probably with the entire rest of the series, but definitely with the scene. And that's how stories work. The audience tends to forget scenes that are done decently, as long as the important scenes are powerful enough. And that's not the story being dysfunctional, that is the story working. So this channel just hit 20,000 subscribers, and I feel like I just did oh my god, we hit 10,000 thing. And I did, you know, that was just a few weeks ago. But yeah, it's unbelievable. Thank you. Seriously, I can't thank everyone enough for all the support. The art you saw in this video was done by Chiara Jacobelli, who draws my webcomic as well, Minor Champion. New chapter out today. If you like epic superhero stories, well, this one is about constipation and bathroom problems, and it is pretty ridiculous, but it is also very epic. Links to read that and to follow Chiara both down in the description. Patreon link there as well. Truly appreciate the support I've been getting on there. New videos every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Thanks for watching.